So for a Realtor PSA here, let's talk about flood zones and how to figure out whether the house you're looking at is truly in a flood zone. And when I say that, we're going to go ahead and put the link down in the description for the flood zone maps. So everybody's got the flood zone maps, but if you're new to being a realtor or if you're just not familiar with flood zones, there are many things called LOMAR letters. That is a letter of map adjustment or a letter of map revision. And what that means is if you have a new construction or maybe the house got built or rebuilt after Hurricane Ian or something like that, a lot of times they built the elevation higher, which means you can go and fill out this letter of map revision and request that you be taken out of the flood zone, which is really strange because you could be the only one on the street right here without being in a flood zone, and house over here is in a flood zone, house on the other side of you is in a flood zone, but you are not. So that's something you want to take a look at. And as a realtor, your buyer obviously is going to want to know whether they're in a flood zone. And we all know that all these borrowers want to get this great house close to the water, not in a flood zone. So this could be a selling point for you to find a house that did do a letter of map revision, and that house could be the perfect house for somebody who doesn't want to pay flood insurance. So again, we'll put the link down in the description, so that's your first start, but then find out if that house has got a LOMAR letter of map revision, and if it doesn't, if it is on a higher elevation, you can actually request that. So that is a letter that you could submit if you have a listing that maybe you want to take out of the flood. So in putting all of this in perspective, let me tell you a little story. We had a realtor who had owned their home for about 25 years, maybe 30, and the house next door was going up for sale. And they had been in their home and had never had the flood zone map changed, or they had done a letter of map revision when they bought the home. It was a little higher on the elevation. But the house next door went up for sale, and he thought it would be a great house for a friend of his to buy, and thought, this is great, he wants to not be in a flood zone, all of that. So they went through all the motions and got the house, put an offer on the house, got all of that, and then guess what? When we pulled the flood cert, the house was in a flood zone, and it was too low to do a LOMA or LOMAR letter. It was a little older, and it was a great little house, but it was older and was not built very high. So there was no way to change that, and because it was equal to the elevation level, it had a pretty high flood quote when you went to get the insurance. So just to make sure that when you're looking around, when you're looking at that link and you're looking at flood zones and all of that, and remember when you're looking up, pulling MLS things that say this house is not in a flood zone, or maybe the house is, but you know it shouldn't be because maybe there's a house on that street that is not in a flood zone, check the elevation. That could be something that you could change. It could be a perfect house for one of your clients, it's just in a flood zone. Or it could be a perfect house for one of your clients and it happens to not be in a flood zone, but you don't know because based on the map, it's in a flood zone. So definitely take a look at all of your options and all of that. But that is a great way to get a great house close to the water and not in a flood zone, is by doing a LOMAR letter of map revision or letter of map amendment. Same thing, gets you the same result. So if you've got any questions, if the link in the description doesn't help enough, give me a call. Dawn Hall, Van Dyke Mortgage, 239-789-7561, your lender for life.